I've been waiting my whole life for this one. Orthopedic surgeon and husband for The View host, Sonny Hostin, has been named in a federal lawsuit alleging insurance fraud. She got on television. She got these women tell me why her husband is named in a lawsuit in insurance fraud. And I'm gonna show you exhibit B. Can you show this to the jury?
According to the documents, he knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services, including arthroscopic surgeries.
Sonny Hostin built her brand on clarity, justice, and sharp commentary. As a co-host on The View, she rarely held back, offering fierce takes on politics, race, ethics, and accountability. For years, viewers saw her as a woman who spoke truth to power, who demanded transparency from others in the spotlight. But now, the tables have turned, and this time, Sonny's the one in the hot seat. Her carefully curated public image, brilliant legal mind, devoted wife, moral compass is under siege. Not because of something she said, but because of something far more damning. Something closer to home. Her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, a respected orthopedic surgeon, has been named in what's being called one of the largest racketeering and insurance fraud lawsuits in New York's history. A case so massive, so tangled in scandal, that even Hollywood couldn't have written it better. At the heart of this $450 million storm is a deeply troubling accusation that Dr. Hostin orchestrated a medical fraud scheme so vast it makes organized crime cases look like small potatoes. The allegations claim that Dr. Hostin, along with nearly 200 other defendants, knowingly billed for unnecessary surgeries, exploited no-fault insurance policies meant to protect injured workers, and received kickbacks for fake or inflated medical procedures. And now, with the federal RICO lawsuit in full swing, Sonny Hostin is finding out just how thin the line is between being a fierce critic and a reluctant defendant's wife. It all started quietly. A legal document here, a whisper of concern there. Then suddenly the headlines exploded. The View host's husband arrested in $450 million insurance fraud RICO case. The media pounced. How could someone so close to one of daytime TV's most outspoken moral voices be implicated in something so dirty? But this isn't just a simple fraud case. It's a full-blown legal avalanche, the kind of operation where doctors are accused of performing surgeries on people who didn't need them, or possibly never even had them. Reports claim that Dr. Hostin would recommend invasive procedures without exploring safer, non-surgical options. Allegedly, he billed insurance companies tied to New York City taxi drivers, Uber, and Lyft workers who are especially vulnerable due to the nature of their jobs. These weren't elite clients with premium coverage. These were working class. People just trying to heal and get back to work. And while Dr. Hostin was allegedly cashing in on these unnecessary procedures, those insurance companies were hemorrhaging money. The plaintiff, American Transit Insurance, now claims they were conned out of tens of millions in payouts. And if the allegations prove true, that cash went straight into the pockets of the doctors, including Emmanuel Hostin. But let's pause for a second, because the irony here is almost too thick to ignore. Sonny Hostin, who's made a career out of calling out injustice, criticizing corruption, and demanding transparency, is now entangled in a scandal that screams hypocrisy. The same woman who once argued passionately on national television about systemic greed and inequality might now be quietly writing checks for a legal team while praying this doesn't bankrupt her entire household. What's even more shocking is how Sonny's been handling this in the public eye. Or rather, how she hasn't. For someone who's never been shy about jumping into controversial topics, who's grilled politicians, judges, and even her own co-hosts, she's gone radio. Silent on this one. No statements, no clarifications, not even a carefully worded tweet. Just silence. And that silence is deafening. Because when you've spent years positioning yourself as a voice of integrity, and then suddenly your own spouse is accused of exploiting people for profit, it's not just a PR crisis, it's a personal reckoning. Dr. Hostin's legal team isn't backing down. They've called the lawsuit baseless, a desperate move by a struggling insurance company trying to shift blame. They've hired celebrity lawyer Mark Garagos to handle the defense. But Garagos has a tough job ahead. The paperwork is extensive, the evidence is mounting, and the public is watching closely. And let's not pretend Sonny's not feeling the heat. The The longer this drags on, the more pressure she'll face, not just from viewers, but from ABC, from sponsors, from colleagues, who might suddenly see her differently. Questions are already swirling. Did she know what her husband was doing? Did she benefit from it? And even if she didn't know the full extent, how could she not have known something? This isn't some backroom affair or quiet family dispute. This is federal. This is RICO. This is courtroom testimony, cross-examinations, subpoenas, and financial records under the microscope. And every time Sunny takes her seat at that polished desk on The View, people are wondering, what's going on behind that camera-ready smile? The legal storm surrounding Dr. Emmanuel Hostin isn't just affecting his reputation, it's threatening to shake the financial foundation of the Hostin household. According to multiple reports, the legal costs associated with a federal RICO defense of this scale are astronomical. Sunny Hostin, despite her public status and TV salary, isn't immune to the reality that lawsuits drain more than just emotional energy. They burn through savings fast. Rumors have begun to swirl. Whispers of Sunny preparing for financial fallout, of private assets being reassessed, of bankruptcy lawyers being quietly contacted behind the scenes. Not because she's broke, but because she might be soon if this case doesn't go her way. It's the kind of pressure that could crack even the most polished public personas. And for Sunny, every new headline feels like a blow to the empire she's built. It's easy to forget that beyond the bright studio lights and heated political debates, Sunny Hostin is a wife, a mother, and now, possibly, a financial co-defendant. If not in the courtroom, then certainly in the court of public opinion. And while Dr. Hostin faces the threat of losing his medical license, Sunny risks losing something just as valuable: her credibility. Critics are pouncing. Social media has become a battlefield, with memes mocking her silence, headlines questioning her morality, and longtime detractors relishing the irony. Here's a woman who spent years delivering scathing monologues about systemic corruption, and now she's being asked to explain how that corruption might have existed under her own roof. But this isn't just about moral high ground. It's about career survival. ABC has yet to make a statement, but internal sources claim discussions are already happening. Can The View continue to feature a co-host whose family is under federal investigation for orchestrating a massive fraud ring? Advertisers are watching closely. So are producers. And let's face it, Hollywood loves a redemption arc, but it also has a habit of quietly pushing people out when their image becomes too complicated to manage. Yet for all the heat, Sunny is taking, there's still the undeniable center of this scandal, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin. A man who once carried the title of respected surgeon is now described in legal documents as someone who manipulated the healthcare system for personal profit. The allegations claim he knowingly performed unnecessary knee and shoulder surgeries, that he billed insurance companies for procedures that were either exaggerated or never even occurred, that he was part of a ring of doctors, clinics, and healthcare professionals, all scheming to milk millions from vulnerable insurance systems. And what's more, these weren't just any patients. Many of the alleged victims were taxi drivers, rideshare workers, and manual laborers, people who depend on their bodies to make a living. If true, it's not just fraud, it's predatory. It's exploiting people who are already hurting. The lawsuit describes it as a deliberate and organized effort to commit insurance fraud under the protection of New York's no-fault law. That's the legal clause that requires insurance companies to pay medical bills regardless of fault after a car accident. It was designed to protect the little guy, to make sure injured drivers wouldn't be left holding the bag. But, according to the federal complaint, Dr. Hostin and others turned it into a goldmine, charging for invasive surgeries that didn't need to happen. And let's be clear, this isn't some fringe crackpot accusation. It's a coordinated federal investigation. It involves over 180 defendants, and it names Dr. Emmanuel Hostin directly. The scope of the case dwarfs many other medical fraud cases in recent memory. Some legal analysts are even calling it the largest RICO healthcare fraud case in New York State history. But where is Sunny in all this? That's the million-dollar question. Her silence has become the loudest part of this story. No Instagram statements, no tearful on-air apologies, just silence. And that silence is starting to wear thin. Viewers, once loyal, are beginning to ask hard questions. Did she benefit from the money? Was she complicit in keeping quiet? Or is she simply a woman blindsided by the man she trusted most? Because here's the thing. When you've spent years calling out politicians for turning a blind eye, the public expects you to keep that same energy when it hits home. And so far, Sunny hasn't. Even fellow media figures are starting to weigh in. Some defend her, saying spouses aren't always privy to their partner's business. Others are less forgiving, pointing out that if the roles were reversed, Sunny would be the first to call for accountability. And that's probably true. But this situation isn't theoretical. It's real. It's unfolding in real time. And every day that passes, more details leak. More witnesses step forward, more subpoenas are issued. The legal strategy may be tight-lipped, but the rumor mill never stops spinning. In the meantime, the view goes on. Sunny shows up, camera ready, poised, sipping coffee like everything is normal. But for those watching closely, the tension is obvious. The strained smiles, the careful phrasing, the quiet deflections. It's as if she's waiting for the moment to break her silence. But not yet. Not while the legal teams are still building their cases. Not while the outcome is still uncertain. Because if Dr. Hostin is found guilty, the fallout will be catastrophic, not just for his career, but for hers too. As this case unfolds, the scope continues to expand, revealing not just the actions of one doctor, but a sprawling network of alleged fraud, corruption, and greed. Dr. Emmanuel Hostin isn't the only person facing the heat. The lawsuit lists nearly 200 defendants, other doctors, clinic operators, hospital staff, and supposed medical middlemen who all allegedly played a part in a scheme that siphoned hundreds of millions from the healthcare system. Some were allegedly responsible for recruiting injured drivers, pressuring them into surgeries they may not have needed. Others handled the billing, submitting inflated or downright fake claims to insurance companies under the guise of legitimate medical care. The evidence? Stacks of documents, suspiciously identical procedure logs, and a trail of money transfers that lead to luxury purchases, offshore accounts, and a few now-quiet Instagram profiles that once bragged about private jets and high-end cars. This wasn't a sloppy, small-time scam. If the claims hold true, this was a well-oiled machine, run by professionals who knew exactly how to game the system. And now that machine is falling apart under the weight of subpoenas and federal scrutiny. The plaintiffs, led by American Transit Insurance, claim that millions were stolen under the cover of routine treatment. Knee surgeries here, shoulder. Scopes there, all wrapped in medical jargon and billed as necessary procedures. But as investigators dug deeper, they say what they found was a pattern. The same doctors performing the same surgeries on patients with almost identical injuries, often with minimal examination and no consideration of alternative treatments. A racket hiding in plain sight. And right there in the middle of it is Dr. Hostin, Sunny's husband, the man she once praised on air for being handy, supportive, and quietly brilliant. Now, he's fighting for his freedom, his medical license, and his reputation, all while his wife sits at the center of the public stage, unable to escape the glare of questions she can't or won't answer. Let's take a moment to appreciate just how tangled this has become. A TV legal analyst, one of the most recognizable faces on daytime television, is married to a man who's now part of what could be the most extensive healthcare RICO case in New York's history. The irony is brutal. The optics, devastating. For years, Sunny Hostin has used her platform to criticize systemic failures, especially in healthcare. She's spoken out about inequalities in access, about how people of color are often mistreated by the medical system. And now, if the allegations are true, her own husband was part of a system that exploited vulnerable people, some of them immigrants, workers of color, individuals already struggling just to stay afloat. It's a betrayal of everything she claimed to stand for, or at least that's how her critics are painting it. But is it fair to hold Sunny Hostin accountable for her husband's alleged crimes? That's the question tearing through online debates, media panels, and dinner tables across the country. Some argue that spouses aren't legally responsible for each other's business decisions. Others say that in a marriage, especially one that's been decades strong, ignorance isn't a defense. If you live in the same house, share the same accounts, benefit from the same income, how could you not know? Still, as of now, there's no evidence tying Sunny to the fraud itself. She hasn't been charged with any crimes. She hasn't been named in the lawsuit. But silence, in situations like this, can be as damning as involvement. The longer she remains quiet, the more people wonder what she's hiding, or what she might be preparing to say once the dust settles. And let's not forget what's at stake here. If the courts find Dr. Hostin guilty, we're not just talking about jail time. We're talking about financial devastation, civil penalties, massive fines, possibly the seizure of assets, depending on how the finances were managed. For Sunny, that could mean selling off properties, dealing with liens, or even losing her seat on The View if advertisers or producers decide she's too toxic to keep around. There's also the reputation factor. Sunny's brand is built on trust, on being the moral compass of a show filled with strong opinions. She's the one who's supposed to call out wrongdoing, not sidestep it when it hits close to home. Her public silence might be legally strategic, but it's emotionally alienating. People want honesty, they want clarity. And right now, they're not getting it. As the legal process drags on, new headlines will continue to surface. Courtroom drama, new evidence, perhaps even guilty pleas from some of the other defendants. And when that happens, Sunny will have to choose, speak now, or be forced to answer later when the cameras are less forgiving and the script is no longer hers to control. Because make no mistake, this story is far from over. For now, Dr. Hostin has pleaded not guilty. His lawyer Mark Garagos insists this is a sham case, nothing but a smear campaign from a desperate insurance company. Maybe that's true. Maybe the allegations are overblown. Maybe, in the end, the court will throw it all out. But if even a fraction of this turns out to be accurate, the consequences will be staggering. Sunny Hostin may have thought her biggest professional battles would be fought on the set of The View, debating politics and policy with guests and co-hosts. But now, she's facing something far more personal. A storm she didn't see coming, or maybe chose not to see. Her husband's freedom is on the line. Her financial future may hang in the balance. And her moral credibility? That's already cracked, if not shattered. One way or another, the truth will come out. And when it does, the public won't just be asking what Emmanuel Hostin did, they'll be asking what Sunny knew and when. And in the end, that answer could change everything. If this scandal shocked you as much as it did us, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Do you think Sunny Hostin will survive this storm with her career intact? Or is this the beginning of the end for one of TV's most outspoken voices? And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories they don't want you to hear. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned.